When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
This is The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and this is the second episode in my 3-month marathon series. If you didn't catch the first one, it's a good idea to listen to that one first. This series will explore what you should be doing to prepare for your marathon, whether it's this spring or even next fall, month by month. So what makes month 2 different from month 3? Let's find out. Welcome to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and my mission is to help you improve your running, your mindset, and your life with science-backed training and plant-based nutrition. Today, I'm taking you through month 2 of specific marathon training. This is perfect if you have a race in April and you're listening to this as it comes out, but as you'll see, this is easily adapted to a May race or really any month of the year that's about 2 months away from the big day. You'll learn what you should be focusing on in your training this month, what your running should look like, and what you should not be doing 2 months before race day. I'm also going to be answering a question from a listener just like you, which is a really fun way to make this series more interactive. If you have a question or a topic that you'd like me to cover next month, send me an email at claire@theplantedrunner.com. This series is the ideal companion to your spring race training this year, so be sure to follow or subscribe to the show to make sure you don't miss a single one. And don't forget your running buddies. This is the perfect time to share this episode with a marathoner in your life to make sure you both have the best training possible. And with that, we are back to the show. But of course, don't forget to stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode for another Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. When you're 2 months out from your marathon, you are really in the thick of it. Your mileage, both weekly and for the long run, is building, and the time you are spending on training is adding up. At the beginning of this month, you are almost certainly ready for a down week. I like to take this week as a true deload or cutback week for most marathoners. Now, that doesn't mean you want to take the entire week off unless you really have to, but it's time to let the training settle in a little bit without adding extra stress. I will trim the long run all the way down to 8 or 10 miles, which is 12 to 16 kilometers for most runners, or about 12 miles for advanced runners, which is about 20K. You'll want to keep your regular frequency of running unless you need an extra day off to feel good. By the end of the week, you should feel pretty rejuvenated and ready to head into the next couple months of training. For most runners, I like to keep the speed work at just 1 true session a week. You can still be working on your strides and drills, but there's no need for both a track session and a tempo this week. Now, just because you'll be running a little bit less in a down week, that doesn't mean you should eat less. Even if you started running to lose weight, or if you're actively trying to lose weight right now, a calorie deficit is harmful at best and dangerous at worst when you have athletic goals like running a marathon. There are far better ways to lose weight than training for a marathon, and there are far better ways to train for a marathon than trying to lose weight at the same time. Choose which one is more important to you and don't attempt to do both at once. Most marathoners end up underfueling at some point during their training. This is most typically from not fueling before, during, and after their runs. Then the underfueled runner will simply eat as normal the rest of the day, robbing the body of nutrients for repair, or they'll be so hungry that they'll drastically overeat. Rule number 1 is eat when you're hungry. And then rule number 2 is remember that you sometimes need to eat when you're not hungry. If you're the type of runner that is not hungry after a run, it's not because your body doesn't need food. It's because your hunger hormones are suppressed by exercise. Eating at least 3 meals and 2 to 3 well-balanced snacks every 2 to 3 hours, yes, that's right, every 2 to 3 hours, can help keep your body happy and ready to build. It will also help keep you from the starving, stuffed cycle that so many marathoners find themselves in. After a good down week, it's time to get back into the marathon build. I'll go over what that could look like after this, and later on, I'll be answering your marathon questions, so stay tuned. Americans spend an average of 90% of their time indoors, but did you know that indoor air can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air? Breathe easy with Air Doctor, the award-winning air purifier that eliminates 99.9% of dangerous contaminants like allergens, viruses, smoke, gases, mold spores, and more. Air Doctor was voted Best Air Purifier by Newsweek, so it's no surprise that 98% of Air Doctor customers agree their home's air feels cleaner, safer, and healthier. Unlike other air purifiers, Air Doctor captures invisible particles 100 times smaller than standard HEPA filters. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code PLANTEDRUNNER to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee plus a 3-year warranty, an $84 value free. Get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com. airdoctorpro.com and use promo code PLANTEDRUNNER.
The Planted Runner is sponsored by Liquid IV. Instead of making New Year's resolutions, I like to focus on process goals, the little rituals that soon become habits. One of mine this year is making sure I'm hydrated before, during, and after every run. One of my favorite ways to hydrate is with Liquid IV. My current favorite flavor is pina colada, which also, by the way, makes a great mocktail any time of year. In each packet, you get 8 vitamins and nutrients, 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, and no artificial sweeteners. And it's non-GMO and, of course, vegan. Make Liquid IV your new ritual this year. Just 1 stick with 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code PLANTED at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code PLANTED at liquidiv.com.
Welcome back to the Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. Every marathon build will look a little different for every runner, sometimes drastically so. But there are some patterns that you should follow to make sure you're getting the right mix of training and recovery to do your best on race day. The first pattern is alternating hard days with easy days. We don't want to run a tempo the day after a track day or a track day before the long run. This would put stress upon stress, which does not produce growth. Remember, stress plus rest is the way the body improves. The exception to this is when we are purposely introducing a stressor the day before a long run to simulate a longer long run. Instead of running over 3 hours for your long run, your body will actually adapt better if you run a shorter, medium-paced run called a steady run the day before. The steady long run combo is something I like to have my athletes do every other week in marathon training, which is another pattern you might want to follow. Just like you alternate hard and easy days throughout the week, alternate longer long run weeks with shorter long run weeks. This allows you to build the long run safely without constantly building each and every week. Your speed workouts should start to look more and more specific to the demands of the marathon this month. And one of the best examples of this is my very favorite workout, the 2x6. The 2x6 miles, or 2x10 kilometers, is a classic marathon workout made famous by the Hanson brothers. Their elite athletes will run this tough workout about 2 weeks out from a goal marathon, but that is far too aggressive for non-elites. Running it in week 6 will give you plenty of time to recover. Plus, it will give you valuable feedback about whether or not your goal pace is realistic. Here's how you do it. After a mile or two of easy jogging as a warm-up, run 6 miles at marathon pace, give or take 10 seconds per mile either way. Before repeating the 6 miles a second time, you stand around for 10 minutes. Or if you really want to make things harder, sit or lie down during the rest break. No walking or jogging. After the second set, cool down a mile or two. That 10-minute break is a clever way to make the second set harder without adding more miles or more speed. It will feel like your legs are a little junked up from standing around, and it will be harder to run the same pace. Now, if you completely blow this workout, remember, it's just one workout and there's still plenty of time. But if you can nail this one, it's a great sign of your marathon fitness. Beginner and some intermediate runners should modify the 2x6 miles to 2x5 miles instead, or 2x8 kilometers. Now let's talk about adding some speed into some of your long runs. My two favorites are surges and a fast finish. Surges are accelerations of 60 to 90 seconds at a faster pace than your marathon pace. It could be your 10K pace or your half marathon pace, and this is broken up by 5 minutes at your marathon pace. If your long run is 20 miles, you would run 12 to 15 miles at an easy pace and then add in 3 to 8 surges. The rest of the run ends at an easy pace. Adding surges to your long run teaches you that you can run fast when you're tired. Running at faster than marathon pace also changes the effort away from a purely aerobic run and challenges all your energy systems. A fast finish long run starts off at an easy pace and then adds 3 to 5 miles of marathon pace or slightly faster at the end, allowing for a mile or two of easy running as your cool down. A key part of running the marathon well is to be able to turn up the effort at the end when you are tired, and this is how you learn to do that. Most runners only need 2 or 3 long runs with a little spice in them per training cycle. The vast majority of the rest of them should be simply nice and aerobic, where you practice your race fueling, your mental strength, and test out your running gear. Besides your running, all marathoners should be strength training, regularly working on mobility, and getting enough sleep. Those topics deserve their own episodes, so if you'd like to learn more details about those, scroll through the archives of the show and you'll find everything you need to know. But of course, no podcast or blog post or even the book I wrote will tell you exactly how you should train as the unique individual you are. Yes, you can get a general idea, but for truly custom training, plans, and coaching, you'll want something made just for you. And of course, I can help with that no matter what your needs or your budget. Learn more about how to get your next PR at theplantedrunner.com. Now, I'd like to answer a question from Karen. She wrote, I'd like to hear about when you train in a different climate than your race. I'm training in hot and humid Singapore, but my race will be springtime in the Netherlands. Definitely not hot and humid. How will this affect the outcome, and how can I prepare for this? This is a great question because most runners end up training in a climate that is unlike race day. Spring marathoners train in the winter and are often unprepared for a hot race day. Fall marathoners probably have it a little better since they train in the heat of the summer and will actually benefit from heat adaptation. If they get a cool race day, their fitness can really shine, but they might not be aware of how to adapt their paces to the better conditions and increased fitness. If you're a pro runner or you have unlimited time and resources, you can travel to train in places that mimic the conditions that you expect on race day. The more closely you can simulate the conditions you will face, the better prepared you will be for it. But most of us will be stuck working with the climate that we have at home, so we might need to get a little creative. If you're in a cold place training for a hot race, you can pretty easily simulate that inside on a treadmill. It's a little trickier trying to do the opposite unless you can put the treadmill in a walk-in cooler. But again, training in heat and humidity will actually make a cool, dry race easier. So I wouldn't be too concerned about trying to mimic the conditions in Karen's case. She will need to instead focus on pacing appropriately, since everything will feel easier. If you have the luxury of getting to the race city early to have some time for test runs, that will help. But if not, you likely can expect that race pace will feel a little easier on race day. It's still a marathon, so don't think it'll be a walk in the park, but you should be at an advantage. In March, I'll be back with the next installment of the 3-month marathon series, so be sure that you follow the show wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss it. And if you have a marathon training question that you'd like me to answer, email me at claire@theplantedrunner.com. Now it's time for the Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. Today's topic is be a butler for your future self. When you're struggling to get out the door for a run or make a healthy meal, wouldn't it be great if you had someone to do the prep work for you? A butler who lays out your shoes, preps your coffee, and meal preps on Sundays. The truth is, you can have that right now for free. When you think of your future self as someone you'd like to care for and even spoil a little bit, you'll happily do the little things now that will be a gift to future you. After all, there is no one on this planet that's more important to you than you. When you make it your job to truly take care of future you, you can get all the results you want because not only does your life become easier, you would never want to disappoint someone who treats you so well. Thank you for listening to The Planted Runner, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Don't forget that you can enter to win a free custom training plan for your next race and get featured on the show. Just write an Apple Podcast review and enter at theplantedrunner.com/PRLab. Of course, reviews are the #1 way to boost this show's reach, and it's a great way to tell me what you'd like to hear next because I read every single one. Have a great run today.
Sports stars. They're like superheroes.
But they're actually real.
Which is why we've made a podcast about them. You see,
They've all got a story.
but too many of these stories were cut short.
Kobe Bryant,
Payne Stewart,
Flojo,
Phil Hughes.
Justin Fashanu,
We're writing episodes about all of them.
and sadly many more.
Death of a Sports Star, a new series from Crowd Network.